friends, today I'm gonna react to a series to read list from 2016. So, you know I love doing reaction videos, and I thought that it would be really fun to actually look at two videos from 2016. Beginning of 2016 was when I first kind of started talking about my series. I think I did like a finished series video at the end of 2015. And then in the beginning of 2016, I did 3 videos. One about series that I'm caught up on, one about series that I need to catch up on, and one about series that I will not be finishing. And since then, the beginning of every year, I do a video just kind of combining all of those and talking about the series that I read in the past year. And so I thought that today it would be fun to look back at the videos of series I'm caught up on and series I need to catch up on to see what happened to these series. I think both is interesting because I almost feel like the ones where I am already caught up is going to be even more interesting, because that's the series where I was waiting for other books to come out. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see if I actually ended up reading the sequels. I feel like with the series that I need to catch up on, I probably either did catch up or I ended up DNFing them. I feel like because back then I was still I was really keeping track of the series that I had started, and it was like really important for me to not, just leave too many unfinished series, or at least just like promptly decide that I would DNF them. So I think that the ones that I still needed to catch up on are actually going to be more interesting. But we're going to start with the series that I still needed to catch up on back then. Let's see what happens. I genuinely have zero idea what to expect from this, and I just hope that it's not too bad. We'll see. I am definitely a little bit scared, but I also think that this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's go. Today I want to talk about all of my unfinished series that I have to catch up on, and this includes not only series that are finished but I personally have not finished reading, but also all of the series that are not finished where I would still have to catch up on books anyway. So if there was a new book coming out right now, I wouldn't be able to finish it because I haven't read the book before that or the book before that, and so on. I think you will get what I'm saying. Let's just get into the books. So the first series is the Outlander series, of which I have read the first 4 books, and I think at this current state there are 4 books published that I would have to catch up on. As I said, I read the first 4 books, being Outlander, which is the first book that I do not own. Then there is Dragonfly and Ember, Voyager, and lastly Drums of Autumn, which, yes, in case you're new, this is what inspired my username. So I did end up trying to read the 5th book in the Outlander series, and I DNF'd it. I did not like it. I just think that as soon as the focus kind of started shifting away from Jamie and Claire, I just didn't care that much anymore. I just really couldn't get invested in it anymore. And I remember the 5th book was so much about like motherhood and breastfeeding and stuff, and I was just like, what am I reading? So I DNF'd it because I rather wanted to, keep the good memories of the first 4 books, especially the first 3 books actually. And I'm sad that I had to DNF it, but I'm really, really glad that I made that decision, because now I just look back at really good memories when it comes to this series. The series we have is the Ugly series by Scott Westerfeld, and I actually wanted to include this in my finished series because originally I wanted to only read these 3 books. There is a 4th book in the series, but it is more of a companion novel, and I wasn't really sure, but now I do feel like I want to read this at some point in my life, so I just decided to include it in the unfinished series. I don't know why I did that. I should have known that I would never actually pick up extras. I didn't, and then I decided to just kind of mark it as a DNF, although technically for me this is a finished trilogy. I know there's even more books now in this series, but I'm not really interested in diving back into this world, at least not for now. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in like a series I DNF video at one point, because I like that closure, but yeah. that didn't happen. That was so unnecessary.
Next we have the Matched trilogy by Ali Condi. I have read the first 2 books, being Matched and Crossed, and the third book, Reached, is definitely one that I have been putting off for a long time, but I do want to read at some point. I enjoyed Matched quite a lot. I thought it had another very interesting dystopian concept, but the second book was really awful and boring, and so I wasn't motivated to read the third book at all in the last few years basically. But I do plan on finishing the trilogy because it's still easy to get through, and as I said, I like the concept, and I think that the third book is probably going to be okay and not as bad as the second one.
This is where you can very clearly tell that I was still very much someone who always wanted to finish things, be it books or series. I was just like, I finish things, like I just don't leave, just think. So much has changed. So much has changed since then. But I ended up actually buying the third book, and then already when I got it, I was like, holy shit, that is so big. I don't want to read it. And so I think I had it on my shelf for like maybe 3 months, and then I got rid of it because I just realized I'm not interested in reading it, and I never looked back. I did genuinely like Matched. I think the concept of this dystopian world is super interesting, but oh my god, the second book was such a snooze fest, and I don't care how this trilogy ended.
Next is the Miss Peregrine's trilogy by Ransom Riggs, and I have read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City. I also already own the third book, Library of Souls, and I'm pretty sure I will get to this in the next month or something. These are kind of slow for me, so it's not a high priority, but I think I will finish this very soon.
So I did end up finishing the original trilogy, but now there's more books. So I guess technically I now DNF'd this series because I do not plan on reading any more books in the series because I'm really not a big fan of the series at all. I since got rid of these books and everything, but I have finished the original trilogy, so that's something.
We have the Geek Girl series by Holly Smale. Yeah. I've read the first 2 books, being Geek Girl, and the other one I think was Model Misfit. I really love the series, but I am not that into it that I want to spend lots of money on it. It's just not a high priority.
Oh my god, I didn't... okay, I did finish the Geek Girl series. It is one of my favorite series. I loved especially the last 2 books so goddamn much. So it's funny that I'm like, oh, it doesn't have high priority, blah blah blah. And then I actually ended up, I got the third book used. I got the 4th book really cheap online, like as an ebook. And then after I finished the 4th book, I was so obsessed with this series and wanted to continue so bad that I actually went to the English bookshop, and thankfully, so lucky, they actually had the final 2 books in the series, and I went there like the day after I had finished the 4th book to pick them up and start them immediately. That is how obsessed I ended up being. It's so funny to me to hear me being like, oh, I don't want to invest a lot of money, and then I actually ended up buying them in an actual bookshop because I wanted to continue so bad. So funny to me.
We have The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, of which I have read the first book, The Fifth Wave, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't that special for me, so I kind of been putting off reading the second book, which is The Infinite Sea, and I think that the last book is The Death Star, which comes out this year. So I think this might be something that I will pick up this year. Then
I kept saying that for a really long time. I was like, it's not Star Wars. The last book is called The Last Star. But I did end up finishing this trilogy, and actually I ended up liking the second and the third book in this trilogy much more, which I know is so unusual. Usually people love the first book and then couldn't even get into the second book, but I was kind of like about the first book, but then truly loved the rest of the trilogy. I definitely want to reread that super soon as well, because I was so impressed with the second and third book, and the ending of the third book as well was so well done. Yay!
We have the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series by Becca and Christy Ritchie. I have only read the first book in this, which is Addicted to You, and I definitely think I enjoyed it enough to want to continue with this.
I never ended up coming back to these books. I think that I just realized that there's so much other new adult and adult romance out there that I will enjoy much, much more. This was entirely too heavy and no. I honestly get a little bit like, I don't get a good feeling even thinking about these books. So yeah, never read another single book in that series.
And the last series that I have to catch up on is the Numbers trilogy by Rachel Ward. I have read the first book, Numbers, and I also own the third book already, which is Numbers Infinity. The second book would be Numbers Chaos, I think, and I'm basically just waiting for this to be somewhere available as a used copy, and as soon as I get this one, I think I would just finish the trilogy pretty fast.
So I did end up finishing the trilogy as soon as I got, or like pretty recently after I got the second book used at one point, and honestly, a pretty forgetful series. I kind of feel like I should have stopped after the first one. The first one was pretty enjoyable, but the rest was kind of a little bit weird. I think I got rid of those books actually. Those were all of the series that I need to catch up on. Now we're gonna get into the series that I'm caught up on. Let's see how I did with those.
This video is going to be about all of the series where I am caught up, but I'm waiting for the next or final book to be published. And I think we should just get started to not make this too long. The first series is one where I'm basically just hoping that someday we will get more books. And that is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. There are still rumors about this being a trilogy, and I'm still very much hoping for this to be continued, but honestly, knowing Stephanie Meyer, I'm not really sure if this is ever going to happen.
I'm not even going to talk about it.
I don't really consider this a series, but I still kind of wanted to mention this to put some hope out there.
I'm not even going to stop here.
Really optimistic about it. And that same thing goes for the Archived series by Victoria Schwab. I have read the Archived and the Unbound, and Victoria Schwab has said several times that she really wants to continue the series, but there's no publishers who wants to pick it up, I think.
That makes me so goddamn sad. Okay, short version is that yes, back when this video came out, that was the case. The publisher, didn't want to continue the series because it wasn't selling well, and now obviously Victoria Schwab is immensely successful and could publish a third book, but because of that initial discontinuation of that series, there's a lot of heartbreak and a lot of just stuff that is connected to the series for her. And obviously she has so many other projects and so many things she's writing and she's doing, and there's just not really thing is, this series is never gonna get a third book. Yeah, so no more hope. This is a duology. I do think that it ends fine and you can totally read it as a duology, but my heart is still broken because I love this world and I love these characters, and especially knowing how hard this was for Victoria Schwab to get this series discontinued, and people still constantly asking her about it, and seeing people say that they are like accusing her of like abandoning that series, which is obviously total bullshit. It breaks my heart on a lot of different levels, so let's just go on.
The next one is the Selection series by Kiera Cass, and I actually wanted to include this in my finished series at first because I have read the original trilogy, and this kind of companion duology that is coming out right now is really just a companion for me and a kind of spin-off for the original trilogy. But since I'm planning on finishing this duology, I thought it would kind of be easier to just include it in this one and see it as one big series. I have read the Selection and the Elite and also the One and the Heir, and I'm waiting for the Crown to be released, which I think is going to happen in May 2016. Definitely looking forward to finishing this series.
I did end up reading The Crown. I think I like The Crown a lot more than I like The Heir, so I was really happy I ended up finishing that, but at the end of the day I still think the original trilogy as it is good, and I don't think I would ever like reread The Heir or The Crown, but I would totally reread the original trilogy. So yeah, it is what it is.
Again. Next I have the Neil trilogy by Lynn Madsen, the first one being Neil and the second one being Neil Unlocked, and the third book, Neil on Fire, is coming out this summer as well. This is another one I'm very much looking forward to finishing. I really enjoyed this trilogy so far, and I can't imagine that the third book will disappoint. Then we
I should not have said that. I did end up finishing this trilogy when the third book came out, and Neil on Fire was a huge disappointment and ended up being such a big disappointment that I got rid of the whole trilogy because it just ruined the whole experience, genuinely. I think this could have been a standalone, it could have even been a duology, but what the third book tried to do, that was just too much.
We have the Summoner series by Taryn Matharu, with the first book, The Novice, being out right now, and the second book, The Inquisition, is coming out I think in June of this year, and it's another one I'm very much looking forward to.
Another sad one. I did end up reading The Inquisition, but I already had some trouble getting into The Inquisition without having reread The Novice first, and then by the time the third book came out, The Battle Mage, I had completely forgotten both the first and the second book, and I realized I was not in the mood to reread these books at all. Really, I didn't care anymore, and so I also ended up getting rid of all 3 books, I think I didn't own the first book, but that definitely hurts me. Like, looking back at that, I'm like, I should have given it the chance at least. So that makes me kind of sad right now. That's definitely, with Neil, that's just what happened, and I'm glad I got rid of it and stuff. But with this one, I'm like, maybe I can check out the audiobooks or something, because it does make me a little bit sad. The Novice was the first book that I got accepted for on NetGalley, so it just means a lot to me. Oh my god, this is much sadder than I thought.
We have Vicious by V. Schwab, which I think has been published as a standalone, but to many readers and to Victoria Schwab, it was clear that this should be a series. And I'm pretty sure that the last kind of publishing deal she has signed was one where the sequel for this is definitely included. So we'll definitely get the sequel for this, which is really, really amazing, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
So this is exciting because yes, we did end up getting the sequel, and also Victoria is planning to write even more books in this series, at least another one, even if it takes another 5 years. The sad thing about this one is that I ended up not really liking the sequel. So, that's the thing. But this is definitely exciting to kind of see me talk about it, and still it not being like 100% sure, but like we kind of know there is a sequel coming. And now I already have like 5,000 copies of that sequel on my shelf.
Then we also have the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy by V. Schwab, and the second book, A Gathering of Shadows, will be published in February. So I'm very excited to finally read this. It's this month. Maybe when this video comes out, it will already be out. This is also exciting. Another one where the world is great, the characters are great. I cannot wait.
Oh my god! I totally did not even think about the fact that, obviously the series would be in here. Oh, that's so lovely. I always love those throwbacks, and I know you always love those throwbacks as well. And people are always like, oh my god, it's so cute to see you like gush about it back then. So, oh, that's lovely. I love that so much.
Next we have An Ember in the Ashes series by Sama Tahir. The first one, An Ember in the Ashes, was published last year, and I read it, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I definitely look forward to seeing where the story is going.
So by the time the second book came out, I had forgotten everything about the first book, and because I wasn't the biggest fan of the first book in the first place, I ended up just not continuing it and kind of officially DNFing the series.
We have the Witch Hunter trilogy by Virginia Baker, and The Witch Hunter was one of my favorite books of 2015. I'm so excited for The Kingslayer, which comes out in June this year, and I cannot wait to read it and read more in this world.
I did end up reading The Kingslayer. I'm pretty sure I read that basically immediately as it came out, so I did end up finishing that duology.
I have the Escaped series by Kristen Cast.
Now we're getting to all of the
last year. I don't have
I'm pretty sure that everything I mentioned from here on out, I have not continued or read like one more book off and then DNF'd. There's some rough ones in here.
Any information yet on if this is really going to be continued, when the book will be published, and what the title is, or how many books there are going to be in the series? series, but if there's ever anything published, I'm definitely there to read it.
I barely even remember the series, but I know that I did read the second book and I really did not like it whatsoever and gladly DNF'd that series.
We also have the Avalonia Chronicles by Farah Umaboy. The Last of the Fire Drakes was the first book, and this is also one where I'm not sure when the next book is going to be released, but I really enjoyed the first book, and this is another one where I found the world to be really interesting, and I'm excited to hopefully read more soon.
This one is really sad because it took so long for the sequel to come out that by the time it did come out, I was no longer interested in it. I had read so many other amazing YA fantasy at that point that it did not seem in any way exciting for me to reread the book to get to the sequel. So sadly, I DNF'd that.
This is the Shadow Wars series by Sarah Benson, the first one being Born of Shadow. I think that the second book is already on Wattpad. I don't know if I should be counting that, but I'm just not going to count that. If it is ever like officially published, I will probably pick up the second book. And the last series I have on my list is the Return of Divinity by Lester Sachs. I only recently read the first book, Divine Destruction, and even though I didn't like completely love the series, I definitely feel like the ending was so mean that I want to continue with the series.
So, okay, first off, let me talk about Born of Shadow. Or like in general, these last 4 books, these were all books that I got either on NetGalley or the author sent me for review. And it was kind of back when, you know, I wouldn't really get accepted for any big titles. So this was like really exciting. Like, and I'm not saying that it's not still exciting to get like accepted for anything on NetGalley, but I was just so excited to like review these small books, and like these authors, they would always really be in contact with you. And I just really loved that. I know Farah Umaboy was always really nice and like shared my review and everything. That's why I felt even worse not reading the sequel. But the same was with Sarah Benson. She approached me for a review for the book, and I think I kind of felt like I had to include it in this video, even though I already knew at that point that I would not be continuing this series. I don't even know what happened to that series. And that last book that I mentioned, I really didn't like the book, but it was another one where the author had approached me and I didn't want to say too many negative things about it, and also kind of felt like I had to mention it, but I never even looked at the series again. And the author was a little bit of a creep. I think that sometimes he would just reply, I don't want to say inappropriate, but just kind of like things where I'm like, you're crossing the line a little bit, my dude. And so that's why I didn't even want to look at it, because I'm like, ugh, I wish I hadn't even mentioned it. I wish I had just ignored it. So definitely DNF'd those 2 series as well. Even though like Sarah Benson, Farah Umaboy, they were really nice people. Let me just clarify that for any of you who might want to pick up their books in the future. They were like super nice, super supportive. You know, just to make that very clear, it's just that last author that I never want to touch a book by again. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I either DNF'd or finished everything from these 2 videos, or it's something where like the host where there just is no sequel. So yeah, I'm like, am I forgetting something right now? I'm like, did I not keep track enough? No. So that's really impressive. I'm really happy about this. I'm really surprised. I'm really impressed. I'm truly impressed. I really thought there would be definitely like one series at least from the ones where books were still published that I just had completely forgotten about. But with all of these series, I had at least like consciously decided at one point that I would not be continuing it. So I'm super impressed. Makes me very happy. Let me know any of your thoughts about these 2 videos, any surprises. Yeah, let me know if you keep track of the series that you finish, if you're someone who also always, like, as I said back then, I always wanted to finish everything. Like, DNFing series felt so wrong to me. So I kind of want to know how you deal with that. Are you someone who always feels like they have to finish series as well? Are you someone who always, like, reads first books and then never continues the series? I just want to know what kind of series reader you are. And yeah, I make new videos every Wednesday and Sunday with occasional reviews on Friday. So click subscribe to never miss anything and hit the little bell so you get notified as well. And thank you so much for watching. I'll guess I'll see you soon. Bye!